thank you so much for being here with us today. We really appreciate your time here. Answering some of these questions with us. If you'd like to introduce yourself to the camera real quick.
My name is Corey Robinson, born and raised in Lowell. I'm currently running for District 2, Centerville, Lowell City Council seat. Went through the Lowell Public Schools, started working for the city of Lowell at a younger age, worked there in the DPW for 15 years. I was also union president for 8 years, and then I decided to go. I currently work in Tingsboro, still providing neighborhood services, and the change to the format to district representation is what allowed a candidate such as myself to get involved and actually have a realistic shot at a run.
Nice, thank you. Whenever you're ready to start the questions, we can start. There's 5 questions, so we'll start with number 1. Would you support rehabbing, expanding, or better utilizing our existing homes and storefronts?
Absolutely, especially even some of our existing empty buildings, like right next door, District Courthouse. I mean, I don't see how it's sitting empty. I think we have a crunch with housing. I think economic development needs to be spurred. We need to kind of work with younger generations especially, and try to allow them brick and mortar locations to start getting their hands into small business ownership and culinary programs, etc. I think that's a no-brainer. I think if we have existing structures that need repair and improvement, I'd be 100% on board.
Awesome, thank you. Question 2, is our main street downtown healthy and successful? Yes or no? If not, what would you do to change that?
I'd have to say no right now, and I think parking is a big part of it. I think bringing, number one thing with businesses, you need people with disposable income or foot traffic, and that's going to allow different types of businesses to open up and be successful and thrive. So I think what the city needs to do, our local government, is wrap our arms around this district, support and embrace them, and provide parking opportunities, make sure it's clean, welcoming, safe. In addition to that, I think we need to start looking at maybe some changes to the old historical codes and bylaws that allow for better signage, because I know that's a big problem in the historic district is signage on the buildings. So absolutely, I think we can improve it. I'm not saying that our downtown Main Street business district isn't thriving and doing okay, but there's always room for improvement.
Awesome, thank you. Number 3, would you vote in support of a motion allocating from a city budget for incarcerated people who are being released back into society?
Okay. So if we're looking at like reentry programs,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that's important to give people a second shot. I myself am a product of a second opportunity. I was going through public school. I quit 2 years, worked odd jobs, went back to school, finished, got my foot in the door with local government and city, and never looked back. So I'm all about it. I mean, it's easy to fall off that straight and narrow path, but as long as the opportunities exist to get back on track, I'd support that fully.
Awesome, thank you. As UTEC, we value equality here. We as organizers try to decrease racism and violence in the streets. How would you vote on a motion that says that racism is a public health issue?
I would support it. I'm half black, half Irish myself. I look at it like this. This scientific data that shows and proves that there has been negative impacts to health of minorities in particular, in communities, and we saw it just with the pandemic, where poorer, more densely populated areas of our city that has more minorities living, they weren't afforded the same opportunity when it came to vaccines and COVID testing. So I think whether it's consciously or unconsciously, we need to start having these conversations, and everyone needs to keep that in the back of their mind. And if the community's coming forward stating that they want their elected officials, their advocates, to support something that they strongly feel about, and they've proven the data and they've shown the information to justify their stance, I'd absolutely, because as an advocate, you're there to represent the people. And if that's what the people are demanding that they want acknowledged, how can you not?
Thank you. So this is going to be our last question, question 5. Do you support having our own version of the Carrios Law. If you don't know what the Carrios Law is, I can explain it to you.
Please explain.
So Carrios Law, Buffalo Police Officer Carriol Horn, a series of laws that make it a crime for a law enforcement officer to fail to intervene when another officer is using excessive force, and also protects whistleblowers. Included in Carriol's Law was a provision, retroactive protection for officers, which allows an officer found to have been terminated for reporting objectively unreasonable use of force against a civilian or intervening to stop the use of objectively unreasonable force by a fellow officer within the 20-year period preceding the adoption of the law, to have that finding reviewed by a court. So the question, that's the law, but the question is, do you support having our own version of the Carrios Law?
I would definitely look into something like that, because I agree in theory with it. I think if it comes down to that, you see something, do something, not necessarily say something, see something, say something. If you're walking down the street and you're seeing somebody getting jumped by multiple people, it's almost like your duty to kind of help pull them off that person, or intervene the best you can. And so if these are sworn officers and there is one or two or however many it may be that's going above and beyond and taking matters into their own hand that unlawfully, those on the scene should intervene, because the law is being broken right in front of their face in that instance. So I would definitely look at something like that and really take a hard consideration and most likely support if everything was equal and fair in regards to our own adopted version of it.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, that was all of our questions. We really appreciate your time answering them for us today.
Oh, thank you for having me, and again, thank UTEC, and you guys do a great job in the community. That's one thing. Anything we can do to provide opportunity for youth, it's major. I've always been looking towards even doing like public safety athletic leagues, and I'm a trades guy, a labor guy, and so any opportunities we can create for anybody in the community, I'm all about, and you guys do a great job there, so thank you for having me.
Thank you, awesome.